All right, let's talk about something pretty much all of us deal with, and that's regret. It's one of the most painful human emotions for sure. But what if the key to getting over it isn't about trying to forget what happened? What if it's about completely changing how you even think about the past? Let's dive into that.
So you've got the actor Anthony Hopkins, right? Someone asks him this exact question, and his answer is just so direct it's almost hard to believe. No, don't have time to regret. And it's not because he's lived some perfect life. It's just he doesn't make time for it. And that immediately makes you go, wait a minute. I mean, how is that even possible, right? For most of us, regret feels like this shadow that's always following us around, constantly poking us about our mistakes or what we should have done differently. So how does somebody just decide they don't have time for it? Well, the answer starts with really understanding what regret actually is.
Okay, so if we're going to escape the trap of regret, we've got to figure out how it's built in the first place. See, it's not just some bad feeling that comes and goes. It's this powerful loop in our minds that keeps us stuck, chains to the past.
And the key word here, the really important word, is belief. Regret isn't just about what happened. It's about our absolute certainty that if we had made a different choice, things would have been better. We convince ourselves that we know exactly how it should have gone.
And, some people take this idea even further. The spiritual teacher Sri Ravi Shankar, he puts it pretty bluntly. He says that when we regret, we're basically being ignorant of how complex life is. We're acting like we were in total control, which gets us to the real root of the problem.
And this leads us to the core idea from Harvard psychologist Dr. Ellen Langer. She says the real issue isn't what happened in the past, it's our mindless certainty about it. We think we know, but that feeling of knowing, it's really just an illusion.
Okay, so let's test this whole idea of knowing for sure. I'm going to ask you a really simple question, something we were all taught was a solid, undeniable fact. What is 1 + 1?
2, right? Of course it's 2. That feels about as real as it gets. We are all absolutely 100% certain about this. But should we be?
Well, check this out. It turns out 2 is only the right answer in one specific context, the number system we use every day. If you're a computer using a base 2 system, the answer is 10. And hey, if you add one giant cloud to another giant cloud, you just get one bigger cloud. Same with lasagna. The point is that absolute fact was never absolute. It all depends on the context.
And that right there, that's Dr. Langer's entire point. Once you can accept that everything is always changing, that every situation looks different depending on where you're standing, you realize you can't really know for certain. And admitting that you don't truly know, that's the first huge step toward freedom. Now let's look at just how powerful this can be.
You see, embracing this idea of not knowing isn't just some philosophical mind game. It actually has real physical effects on our bodies. It's the mind-body connection in action.
So Dr. Langer decided to put this to the test with her now famous chambermaid study. She found a group of hotel chambermaids who were incredibly active all day long, but they didn't think of themselves as getting any exercise. She split them into 2 groups, and for one of those groups, she simply told them, hey, all this work you're doing, that is exercise. And the results? I mean, they were absolutely mind-blowing. The group that simply changed their mindset, without changing their diet or working any harder, saw huge health improvements. The other group, the control group, they saw almost no change at all. Their bodies literally changed because their beliefs changed.
And we're not talking about fake feelings. These were concrete, measurable results. They lost weight, their blood pressure went down, their BMI changed. It's incredible. And it really makes you wonder, right? If just changing your mind can change your body in the present, what could it do for how you see your past?
And that brings us right back to regret, which almost always comes from a decision we made that we wish we could undo. But Dr. Langer says we're looking at the whole idea of making decisions completely backwards.
This is such a powerful shift in thinking. Stop killing yourself trying to make the one single right choice. Why? Because you can never ever know what would have happened down that other path. Instead, just pick a path and then pour your energy into making that decision the right one for you.
When you think about it, regret is really just a form of perfectionism, isn't it? It's based on this fantasy that there was a perfect path, a flawless choice, and we were just dumb enough to miss it. But life isn't a test with one right answer. It's a story, and we're writing it as we live it.
So here's a really practical tool you can use. It's about reframing the negative labels we stick on ourselves. Dr. Langer has this great line.
Behavior makes sense from the actor's perspective. So, were you being gullible or were you being trusting? Were you inconsistent or were you just being flexible? Was that past decision stubborn or was it actually principled? When you change the label, you change the whole story.
Okay, so let's tie all these threads together. How do we actually turn this into a new way of living? Well, it involves going beyond simple ideas like blame or even forgiveness and moving towards something much, much deeper.
Dr. Langer lays out these 3 levels of how we can respond to things. Level 1, the most basic, is blame, just seeing something as bad. Level 2 is forgiveness, which is a step up. But as she points out, you can only forgive something if you first blame it. But the highest level, level 3, is to simply understand, to see why someone, including the you from the past, did what they did. And this quote just says it all, doesn't it? Understanding gets rid of the need for blame in the first place. What you did back then, it made sense to you in that moment, with what you knew and how you saw the world. It wasn't a mistake that needs to be forgiven. It was an action that can be understood.
And just like that, we're right back where we started, with Anthony Hopkins. Because after all the intellectual stuff, all the reframing, the very last step is an emotional one. He says we just have to accept ourselves for who we are, not who we think we should be. Once you understand why you did what you did, you can finally do what he does. Forgive yourself and move on.
So I'll just leave you with that to think about. What would change for you in how you see other people, and maybe more importantly, how you see yourself, if your goals shifted away from needing to be forgiven and instead just wanting to be understood?